Elena tried to call her husband all day, but he did not answer. Harvey went away on another business trip, and Elena had to take care of the house again. The absence of her husband from home had become a norm, to which the woman could not get used to. But this time their son Philip got sick. He had a high fever which was very difficult to bring down, and Elena more than ever needed help. Tired of listening to the endless long beeps, Elena rushed to her son. Philip was asleep, and the woman affectionately stroked her son on the head. Suddenly the phone rang, and Elena quickly jumped out into the next room so as not to wake her son with the conversation. "Harvey, why aren't you answering the phone? Are you not interested in how we are here without you at all? Philip is sick." "Well, don't start. You know I have had a lot of work to do. I can't just drop everything and stay home with you. Don't you understand?" resented the spouse. The woman sighed heavily and asked when he would arrive, but he only briefly replied that soon and hung up. He came only a couple of days later, but not a week later he left again on a business trip. One day Elena was returning from the grocery store and met Sasha, Harvey's colleague, with whom she was well acquainted. "Sasha, when will this end? Harvey doesn't get out of business trips. Is there no one else to send?" "Maybe there are unmarried, childless employees in your company. Harvey left again, although he recently had returned from a business trip," complained Elena. "Elena, what business trips are you talking about? Nobody goes on business trips in our company, and Harvey is at work. I saw him myself this morning," surprisingly replied Sasha. Elena was stunned. She took her purchases home, and then at the end of the day she called a cab and went to work to her husband. Hidden behind the tinted glass of the car, she was watching from a distance as her husband came out with some spectacular beauty, opened the door of his car in front of her, and drove in the direction opposite to their home. All night long Elena could not sleep, thinking about how mean her husband had been to her. She could not understand why he had betrayed her and chosen another woman over her. When Harvey returned, Elena greeted him with a question. "Why did you come back so early this time? Maybe because you're a great professional, or perhaps because you have been lying to me all this time." "Well, how quickly you figured it out," answered Harvey sneeringly. "So that's even better. Pack your things and get out of here. I'm tired of your hysterics, and I'm tired of meeting Monica in hotels too." Elena felt herself bursting with pain and resentment, but she tried to restrain herself and simply said that she would leave, but with Philip. Her spouse's response stunned her. "Sure, take him with you. No one is going to mess with him here. Did you ask me when you were intending to get pregnant? No. So now you should babysit him yourself," grinned Harvey. "That's it. Monica will arrive in an hour, so there should not even be a reminder of you by that time." "But where will we go?" said Elena, and couldn't hold back her tears. "It's night and our son is still weak after his illness." "I don't care, and keep in mind, I won't tolerate any tantrums," coldly replied Harvey. So Elena found herself on the street with her little son. She tried to call her friend Carol, but she did not answer. Anyway, Elena decided to go to her, and only when she was already near her apartment building, Carol called and said that she would come only tomorrow, since she was staying overnight at her parents'. Elena began to think that it was necessary to find at least a hotel, but then the phone pitifully beeped and, finally discharged, turned off. The woman sat down on the bench near the entryway in despair. She suddenly had a severe headache, and a hungry Philip began whimpering and begging for food. "Mama, I'm hungry." He was rubbing Elena's sleeve. "Mummy, let's go home. I'm hungry. I'm tired. Mummy." "Be patient for a little while, my dear. I'll think of something. Let me cradle you for a while." The little boy climbed into her lap, snuggled up to her shoulder, but after a minute he started crying again and begging to go home. Thomas parked his car and headed for the entrance. He heard a woman and a baby talking and could not pass by. He said hello and asked if they needed help. "No, thank you, we don't need anything." Elena shook her head. "But maybe you know where I can get some food around here at this time? All the stores are closed and I don't know what to do," she asked, trying hard not to cry. "Do you have a place to sleep tonight?" asked Thomas, looking intently at Elena. "If not, let's go to my place. You can have a home-cooked meal and get some rest." The woman stood up frightened, cradled her son, feeling that the stranger would hurt them, and flatly refused his offer. Thomas, realizing that he had probably frightened the woman, began to reassure her. "Please don't get me wrong. My name is Thomas. I'm married. My wife is waiting at home. I just want to help. Come with me. It's been a hard day for you and me. Let's sleep on it." "Mom, come on. I'm hungry." Understanding what the strange man was offering, Philip pulled Mother by the sleeve toward the entrance. "Well, let's go, if it's really comfortable," agreed Elena tiredly. They all went to his apartment together. The door was opened by his wife, who was clearly not happy to see her husband with a strange woman and child. "Holly, meet our guests. They're in trouble and they need help. What are we having for dinner tonight? Philip, as I understand it, is hungry." The woman smiled wryly and dragged her husband into the kitchen, where she immediately made a scandal. "Are you out of your mind? I'm not going to feed all the beggars you're going to pick up around town." "Holly, speak quietly. It's not nice," said Thomas, trying to calm down his wife. "I am at home and I will be saying what I want and how I want," shouted the woman even louder. Thomas looked out into the corridor, afraid that Elena and her son would hear their conversation, but they were gone. Holly rushed to check whether everything was in place, and Thomas, giving his wife a stern look, took his jacket and keys and ran out of the apartment. He caught up with Elena on the street. "Wait, please, Elena, forgive me for Holly. I do not know what's wrong with her today. I know where you will sleep tonight. Let me take you there." The woman had no strength left to argue, and she agreed. Thomas got Elena and her son into the car, and on the way told them that he had an apartment that he was renting out. The tenants had temporarily moved out, and Elena could spend the night there until the friend she had come to visit returned. And then Elena burst into tears and shared with him everything that had happened to her. Listening to the woman's story, Thomas was stunned and could not believe that this was even possible. He was quiet for a while and then said, "You can live in the apartment as long as you need, and don't worry, everything will be fine." Thomas stopped outside a convenience store, bought groceries, and soon they were in the place. After a hearty meal, when Philip was already asleep, Elena closed the door behind Thomas and cried again, but already from gratitude to this kind and sympathetic man. Meanwhile, a scandal with his wife was waiting for Thomas at home again, and in the morning, Holly, willing to teach her spouse a lesson, went to her mother. But the effect was the opposite. For the first time in a long time, Thomas felt free. He had been tired of Holly's tantrums for a long time, and now finally realized that he and his wife were just putting up with each other and living out of habit. The next day the man stopped by Elena with huge bags from the supermarket. The woman invited him in, and just then Philip ran out of the room. "Hey, kiddo," smiled Thomas. "Look what I've brought you," he said, and handed Philip a big bag of presents. The boy looked into the package and happily disappeared into the room with it, but he immediately returned. Dragging the bag behind him, he ran up to Thomas and, looking up at him, said, "Thank you, dear sir," and ran away again with the gifts. The adults laughed. "Thomas, you shouldn't have done that," blushed Elena. "What's a child going to do here without toys?" So there's nothing wrong with that, laughed Thomas in response and shrugged his shoulders. Not knowing how else to thank him for what he had done for them, Elena invited him for tea. You know, I always wanted children, but my wife refused. I grew up in a big family. I have 5 brothers and many nephews, so it's so much fun and easy for me with kids, confessed Thomas. Well, with Philip, you can forget about peace and quiet, laughed Elena. As if in confirmation of his mother's words, Philip immediately appeared and pulled Thomas with him into the living room to show him the tower he had built. Thomas played with the boy for over an hour, and Elena, watching how well he interacted with Philip, was very surprised because Harvey had never paid so much attention to his son. She was writing articles for magazines on her old laptop. After she went on maternity leave, she was offered to work remotely, and with the illness of her son, she fell off the schedule a little, and now she was catching up. Thomas came to visit them almost every day, and Philip missed him very much when he didn't show up for a long time. One day the man came late in the evening and said he had filled out a divorce with his wife. I'm tired of scandals and the shouting, he explained, and picking up Philip, who had run up to him, tossed the boy up. I want to play with Philip instead. The little boy was laughing with delight, and Thomas suddenly turned to Elena and asked seriously, Will you take me into your family? Yes, answered instead of his mother Philip, who almost couldn't breathe from laughter and joy, while Elena leaned her head against the wall, smiling embarrassed. After getting a divorce, Elena and Thomas got married, and soon Philip had a little sister. 10 years passed. One day, Elena drove her new car, a gift from Thomas for their wedding anniversary, into a gas station. Rolling down the window, she handed the unkempt-looking gas station attendant a few bills and asked for a full tank of gas. Elena stared at the man, not believing her eyes. It was Harvey, but he did not recognize his ex-wife, and gratefully took the money and bustled around the expensive car. In the evening, Elena called the same Sasha and found out the news about Harvey. It turns out that several years ago, Monica persuaded him to sell his apartment and move in with her. With the proceeds, he bought her an expensive car. They went on several expensive journeys. After that, Monica found another man and left him. Thus Harvey was left on the street. Unable to withstand the hardships, he began to drink, was fired, and since then he has been living in a storage unit at the gas station where he worked. Elena hung up the phone and thought about his fate. For a moment she felt sorry for Harvey, but she quickly dismissed these thoughts, thinking that everyone got what he deserved according to his actions.